You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And we're on live radio, folks. You just never know what's going to happen. This is On Point with Victor. This is America's Web Radio, and I am Victor Armendariz. I'd spell it for you, but no, actually, I will spell it for you because you guys need to look me up. It's Armendariz, as in zebra. First name Victor. Look me up and follow me, folks. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter as Radio Victor. You can find me on Instagram as Radio Victor. So I'm pretty much everywhere. I am no guru of social media, but I'm out there. And you also should go to the America's Web Radio Facebook page, become a follower of that or like it, and whatever the term is. Follow us on Instagram, and you can also find America's Web Radio on YouTube, and you should definitely subscribe to our channel. All of this you can do for free. But speaking of following and participating, look, those of you who listen to me, you know I encourage you to partake in my show. You can go live and watch live on Facebook. You can interact with me. You can ask me questions live. You can make comments on the YouTube page as well. But I encourage you, especially if you disagree with me. I want to hear from you. You're not going to get name calling or anything like that from me. You will get a discussion, and you'll be challenged, but you'll be challenged in a good way. And you'll be challenged in ways that you probably should be challenged, that you're not challenged in other avenues or in other places. You're not going to get sycophancy here. You will be questioned. And even if you are a conservative or a Republican and you think you might agree with me, I'll still challenge you. So I encourage you to reach out. And I think we have a word from owner David.
Yeah, Victor, I don't know if you've been keeping up with this, but just make our position very, very clear is that we support Major Goldstein 100%. Are you aware of the situation with him? Going to be tried for murder. Killing a Taliban bomb maker. Now, if he had not killed him, how many more people would that piece of garbage kill with his bombs? So don't ever question where we stand. We're behind Major Goldstein 100%. The rules of engagement, as far as I'm concerned, should be left at the boxing ring, not on the battlefield.
Right.
Major Goldstein was there to do a job, and that wasn't to gather up a bunch of garbage Taliban and sing Kumbaya by fire. He was sent there to kill, and he did it. How many people did he save? So I'll go away now.
Well, you know, David, that's a great point, and something we spoke about on last week's show is, you know, our military it's there for a reason, and our guys are not trained to have campfires and build housing. They're trained to destroy and kill and blow stuff up. And when you constrain our guys and women with the constraints of rules of engagement rules, which they had under the previous 8 years, bad things happen, and bad things happen to us, to our guys, and bad things happen to our allies. And that's I will commend Trump. He did one of the first things he did was change the rules of engagement when he got in. But absolutely what you're talking about with Goldstein, we have to stand behind him. We cannot be a country that sends our men and women and brothers and sisters into war and then not have their back when they do what they're taught.
You know, there are a lot of things maybe he did wrong. I'm not privy to all the information. But that's why everybody that goes in, you have a 201 file. And if you do something wrong, a letter's put in your 201 file. And it follows you the rest of your life. And it could stop his next promotion. It could do whatever. But what he did does not warrant his death by any stretch of the imagination.
Right, or incarcerament. And I mean,
incarcerated,
it's incarceration. No. Yeah, absolutely. But that's true, and that's just another another thing to keep on your mind, folks. We here at America's Web Radio are 100% in standing with our military. Absolutely. We don't care who the commander-in-chief is. We're going to stand with veterans, and we're going to stand with active duty. And you should too. So, all right, we'll move on a little bit. We've got so much to do today and so much to get to, and I've got to get to a few topics before I actually, those of you who are watching live and are wondering who's sitting next to me, I do have a guest that I'm going to bring in just a few. One thing we will do here on Point with Victor is have a sit-down discussion with candidates. And as I was mentioning in my opening just a few minutes ago, I want you to come in and sit down. I'm not going to be mean. I'm not going to play gotcha. But we do have a discussion, and this is a great avenue to talk to candidates. So if you're a candidate out there and you want to reach a lot of people, I encourage you to contact the radio station. Contact me at victor@americaswebradio.com or contact David at gm@americaswebradio.com, gm@americaswebradio.com, or victor@americaswebradio.com. Because we will have a discussion. And again, look, I now if you come in here and want to play gotcha or name call and call me names and things like that, then I will cut you off pretty quick. Or if you call in, you can call in as well. But you've got to be civil. I love it when people on the left call me and want to have a discussion, because we can have a great discussion, but we're not going to be mean and all those things that so many on the left are. No name calling here. If we do it here, we'll do it in a nice way, Donald. So no. so later up, coming up, will be my conversation with Donald Schmidt. Am I saying that right?
Schmidt, yeah.
Schmidt, excellent. And he is running. He's a candidate for the 103rd district here in Georgia, so a House district race. So we will get a little local here in just a minute. But first, I gotta, guys, I always like to do my topic rundown, and I'm not even going to get to number one yet, because I've got to I have to comment on this whole solar panel business that's going on in California. So, folks, if you want an example of what will happen to this country as a whole if we end up electing somebody like Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, the fake Indian, or the fake Hispanic O'Rourke, I could go on, but especially with Socialist Sanders. But any of these guys that are running on the Democrat side, if we elect them, and if you want to know what's going to happen to the country, what the country will look like, you need only look to California. Now, California, there's not a Republican in sight. There's no Republican that runs any parts of the government in California when it comes to the parts of California that make the laws for all the people in California. When you look to Sacramento, I beg you to find some Republicans that have any say in lawmaking in California right now. So let me start with this solar panel business. And again, folks, look to California for the example of where this country will go if we elect a socialist Sanders or a fake Indian Warren or a fake Hispanic O'Rourke, and go on down the list. Right now, there are rolling blackouts going on in California. And why, you ask? Well, because the power company has decided that they need to shut down power grids because they're sparking fires, and they don't want to spark any fires. Well, there's a number of directions I could go with this. One reason, you may ask, is why are there so many wildfires, and why are the fires so spreading? Why do they spread so easy? Why is there so much fuel for the fires? Well, that's because the Democrats and the environmentalists won't let underbrush be cleaned up anymore. Folks, if you go back years and years and years and years and years ago, because for as long as we've had this planet, we've had forest fires. And years ago, the people figured out, if we clean the underbrush, we'll take away some of the fuel, and we can contain these fires. Well, along come the incredible, and I'm saying this with air quotes, the wise men and women of the liberal left, and these geniuses out there who team up with the environmentalist groups, which the environmentalist groups, folks, if you haven't figured it out yet, all it is a socialist group. It's a communist group. It is the home for anti-Americanism. It's not really the home for let's take care of the planet. But that's a whole nother discussion. But right now, so the environmentalists in California convinced the wacko left that they cannot allow underbrush clearing anymore. So what happens? You're fueling forest fires. Then these geniuses figure out that they need to go plant these, and I cannot remember the name of the type of bush tree that they've been planting all over the place that's not indigenous to California. Well, these plants have oils, and when they burn, they release the oils, and then you've got a situation of pretty much spraying napalm along a forest fire. That's the kind of stuff that's going on in California. So now let me bring you back to the power grid. So the power grids, some of these grids are old, and they may spark, and they're sparking fire. So the power company is shutting down power grids. Now you may be saying, oh, but Victor, California had the wherewithal and the genius progressive thinking of requiring solar panels on newly built homes, and they're really pushing solar panels on older homes, and tax credits here, tax credits there, let's get somebody to pay for a solar panel. And they're encouraging people to put solar panels. So they've convinced a lot of these leftists out there, and they put these solar panels on their home. Well, guess what they came to find out? When the power grid shuts down, your solar panel shuts down. There are homes all over California that are trying to figure out why their solar panels aren't working just because the power grid went down. And folks, let me explain this to you as simple as I can. And don't get me wrong, I am not against solar panels. I think the free market will take care of the solar panel need, and the free market will take care of the pricing. And one day we're probably going to have lots of solar panels, because solar panels will harness a ton of energy. The problem is the storage. We do not have the capability nor the technology to store all the energy that solar panels can generate. And what's happening with these homes that are throwing these solar panels on, and you've got and follow the money, folks. You've got all these leftist politicians who now require homes to have solar panels in California. Well, who do you think's in bed with them in those solar panel companies? Probably Biden Hunter. Okay, now that's I'm being a little facetious there. But if you follow the money, you're going to find these politicians that are in bed with these solar companies, because the solar companies are getting taxpayer funding money, and then they're turning around and giving donations to the politicians. But that's another story. So let me get back to this. These families who have the solar panels on their homes, who are wondering why they're not having power right now, it's because these solar panels are tied into the electric grids in California. So when California requires that you have solar panels on your home, you're harnessing that power whenever it's sunny, because hopefully they figured out that the reason why they don't have power at night with their solar panels is because the sun's not out at night. But during the day, when you've got great sun, which California has a lot of days of, you're harnessing a lot of power with that solar panel. You don't have a storage capability to store that power, so they're tying it back into the grid. So the California basically is taking the power from your house and putting it into the grid and then redistributing it back out to you. That's how this works. Then we can get, when I come back, let's go to a break. When we go to this break, and when we come back from this break, I'm going to get into why there's a storage issue. So hang tight, folks. This is On Point with Victor. You're listening to America's Web Radio.
If your health insurance premium is more than your mortgage, Ellen Deal with Ideal Solutions is here to help. Whether you're a small business owner, individual, family, or baby boomer, email MAGA45CAG@gmail.com, and I'll respond with 3 easy questions to help you determine if you can get away from Obamacare. As a 20-year veteran of the insurance industry, I'm here to help with all your insurance needs. Email Ellen Deal at MAGA45CAG@gmail.com.
This is Ron Camacho, host of the Business Hour, on Fridays from 10 to 11 a.m. Join me as I talk with passionate professionals on a program that profiles the best businesses, business professionals, business practices, and fascinating individuals to get an insider view of how America works. 10 to 11 a.m. on America's Web Radio.
The Docs for Patient Care Foundation is your way to join the fight and become a member of an organization created by doctors for patients, dedicated to fighting for your healthcare freedom and preserving the doctor-patient relationship. Get a pen and paper. Write down docs4patientcarefoundation.org. That's DOCS, the number 4, patientcarefoundation.org. Go to our site and please make a generous tax-deductible donation and join the fight today. Thank you.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is On Point with Victor. I am Victor Armendariz, and this is America's Web Radio. Look, I want to jump right back into this, and forgive me, folks, if I jump around a little bit, because I've got a lot that's joggling around in my mind. And I want to get it all out, and I want to get out in a cogent manner, and in a manner that everyone can easily understand. And if you know where I kind of took a little bit of that quote from, then you know your history. And if you don't know, then send me a note and we'll talk about it next week. But so basically, we've got these homes in California, and we got all these leftists running around so proud of their solar panels, and then now they're trying to figure out, why do I not have power when the power grid is turned off? And again, it is because the solar panels are tied to the California grid. So when you harness the power to power your house, that power is going to the grid. And then what California government does is say, okay, last month you used this much power, but you sent us this much power. Here's your credit. That's how they're doing that. The only way to get around, and this is what they don't tell people in California. This is what they're not telling when they're out there giving you the gloom and doom, the planet's going to die and we're all going to die unless you put a solar panel on your home. What they're not telling you is, in order for you to sustain your power, and folks, this is only for 6 to 8 hours, because again, we have a storage issue. So if you were smart enough, or somebody clued you in when you had your solar panels put in place, that you needed a battery backup system, you have to buy a battery backup system, and you have to buy a bunch of converters. There's a lot of components. So you can convert that energy and connect it to your battery, and then that battery will store up for about 6 to 8 hours worth of power. That is what they're not telling you. So if you're a home out in California and you bought your solar panels, but you didn't buy your battery and you didn't buy your converters, then you're sending all that power back to the grid. And when that grid shut down, your panels are shut down. So this is why I'm saying this is an example to look to. Because it costs money to buy those converters. It costs money to buy that battery. And now if you get your house set up that way, and then the power company, the government around California decides they need to shut power down, then yes, you would have 6 to 8 hours of sustained power in your home. Now again, it's going to be limited to the voltage will be limited because of the capabilities of the solar panel, your converters, and your battery. So it's probably not going to power everything in your house. But you would be able to power necessities, again, for about 6 to 8 hours. Now, if these blackouts or these shutdowns are going to last longer than that, eventually your battery is going to run out, and you're not going to be able to recharge until you have another sunny day. So that is what is not being told. So when CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, and NBC, and the rest of them out there are getting behind these wacko governments like you have in California, and they're pushing these solar panels and telling you the solar panel is the end-all be-all, it's the savior of everything, they're not telling you the full story. And that's the way they want to run this country. That's the way the Warrens and the Sanders and the Bookers and the Harrises, this is what they want to do. They want to pull you in by pure emotion. They want to pull you in by scaring the living crap out of you into having to give in to the way they want you to live. Now, let me ask you this, folks. Who do you think doesn't lose power in California? Who do you think is not going to be a victim of a power shutdown? That's going to be the elite, ladies and gentlemen. That is your government elite. Your liberal elite in California isn't going to go one day without power. Do you think Governor Newsom is going to go a day without power? Absolutely not. Do you think any of the elected officials that you elected and you pay for with your hard-earned tax dollars, those of you in California who pay taxes, that money's going to pay for the elite that's not going to suffer what you have to suffer. The misery that you have to be put through, they will never know. And that's how socialism works. That's about as simple of an example as I can give you. Now, if you are married to the letter D and you've been a Democrat all your life, you need to look and see that today's Democrats are not yesterday's Democrats. Today's Democrats have gone the route of socialism. And I'm going to give you another example. Look at what's happening right now with the NBA. Look at what's happening with China. Folks, China is communism. I know they have quasi-capitalism. I know they allow a certain amount of market activity because basically they allow their people to have a little of this, a little of that. If you're happy here, then you will ignore the communism going on over here. But make no mistake, China, mainland China is communist. Mainland China has internment camps today. They have re-education camps today. In mainland China, you do not have the freedom to think for yourself. You are told what to think, how to think, and when to think it. In mainland China, you are told you're going to believe this. In fact, in mainland China, you are told when to protest, what to protest, and how you're going to do it. And think about this. People that are young, teenagers and growing up in mainland China today do not know of Tiananmen Square. They do not know that what happened in Tiananmen Square. They don't know any of that history. If you look at a young Chinese person or student in mainland China and ask them about Tiananmen Square, they will look at you with a very puzzled face because the government, the communist government of China and the schools of China do not teach that part of history. So this is the China, that the communist China that's out there today that the NBA has decided it wants to be in bed with. And it's not just the NBA. You've got big corporate America that is choosing the side of communist China. Now let me give you a little bit more information about communist China. Communist China will pick you up for being gay, homosexual, whatever the word is you want to use, and they'll put you in a re-education camp. But this is the country that an NBA is going to get in bed with. This is the company that corporate America, whether it be Delta, whether it be Nike, whether it be the NBA or the NFL, they're so afraid to upset the communist regime of China. How backwards is that, folks? You've got LeBron freaking James, who wouldn't know history if it slapped him across the face or if it took his well, he probably doesn't wear Jordans, but no. if he took his LeBron shoes off and you hit him in the head with it, he still wouldn't understand the history of this country and the difference between communism and freedom. Folks, LeBron James is out there running around this week condemning the GM of the Houston Rockets, because the Houston Rockets, let me tell you what he did, and those of you who don't know, the Houston Rockets GM, all he did was in a small tweeted support for the freedom fighters in Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. The people of Hong Kong who want to remain free and do not want to be forced into communism, these people, you know what they did this past week, Donald, since you're sitting here next to me? The people of Hong Kong erected a Statue of Liberty. Now, it was a printout, probably a picture or something, but they put out and lifted a Statue of Liberty. They're waving the American flags. They are standing for freedom and liberty. But yet LeBron James and the media here, the leftist media and the Democrats, want to capitulate to China. LeBron James is quick to say that the First Amendment needs to be restrained here in this country because there are consequences for your speech. Well, I got news for you, LeBron. There's consequences for actions, for speech. There's consequences for being independent. That's the beauty of this nation. And when you take the side of communist China, the country that limits the babies you can have, it'll limit the sex of the baby you have. It will put homosexuals into an internment camp. If you speak out against the government, they will pick you up and put you in a re-education camp. This is communist China. It is the antithesis to American freedom. It is the antithesis to the American dream, the American way of life. And for the NBA and LeBron James and Kevin Durant or any of these other bozos who think they know history and are telling the GM of the Houston Rockets that he needs to be aware of his speech, that he needs to be careful what he tweets, you've got it backwards, LeBron and Kevin and the rest of the NBA. You've just got it backwards. Here's a thing that some of you guys probably don't know. The people of China, the people of mainland China, had no idea what the GM of the Houston Rockets tweeted out because Twitter is banned in China. The Chinese Communist government does not allow the people of China to have Twitter. So they didn't even see this. So you've got your own people here in this country, Americans, who are flipping out over a tweet supporting the Hong Kong freedom fighters because the communist regime in China issued a statement saying, well, we're going to kick out the NBA, or we're going to not allow sales of the NBA shoes, or we're not going to allow NBA to come to China, or we're not going to allow athletes to come to China. Big whoopsie-doo. And they're trying to, and you've got the leftist media here telling you that the people of mainland China are upset at the NBA. That is just flat. Look, folks, the leftist media knows damn well that the people of China don't get Twitter. They can't have Twitter, and they didn't see any of these tweets. They're just being told what the Chinese government wants them to know. And the Chinese government is issuing all these warnings and threats to the NBA and to American corporations without their people even knowing why the Chinese government was issuing this. So if I sound like this chaps my derriere, it does, folks. This is the kind of stuff that gets me just really, really passionate, because we are losing what freedom means. We're losing what liberty means. We're losing how this country was founded. We have people like LeBron and the leftist media who are quick to say Columbus was a bad guy, George Washington's a bad guy, Jefferson, oh, that old piece of paper called the Constitution, but yet they'll stand with communist China. Think about that, folks. All right, we're going to a break. We'll be right back. Don't you go anywhere. On Point with Victor will return.
Perhaps you are struggling to cope with the disease of addiction. If not, you probably know a family member or friend that needs help in battling the cravings and the personal and professional damage done by the effects of drugs or alcohol. Get a pen and paper and be ready to write down the following. These are the issues that the trained staff at the Atlanta Healing Center address and treat every day. Their doctors and counselors with over 40 years of practice in the field of addiction can treat the suffering individual in a thoughtful, compassionate, and experienced manner and guide him or her along the path to recovery. So call 770-696-9862 and speak to a knowledgeable staff member about how you or your loved one can be helped to enjoy a better and healthier life. More information is also available on the website at www.atlantahealingcenter.com. The Docs for Patient Care Foundation is your way to join the fight and become a member of an organization created by doctors for patients dedicated to fighting for your healthcare freedom and preserving the doctor-patient relationship. Get a pen and paper. Write down www.docsforpatientcarefoundation.org. That's www.docsforpatientcarefoundation.org. Go to our site and please make a generous tax-deductible donation and join the fight today. Thank you.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Okay, folks, we are back. This is On Point with Victor. Look, I've got... Here's another thing that just drives me crazy. The Department of Education. If there was ever a department that needed to be dismantled and shut down as soon as possible, it's the Department of Education, because the way we are allowing government to educate our children, that's the only reason we're on this socialism road. When you've got kids coming out of high school and elementary school and college, and they think socialism is the way to go, they think restricting freedom, they want to call Donald Trump a tyrant. They're calling President Trump a dictator. Folks, Donald Trump is shrinking government as hard as fast as he can. I don't know how many regulations he has undone. A dictator doesn't shrink the size of government. A dictator doesn't get rid of regulations. So only in the eyes of the government schooling and this road to socialism can a student come out today, or a young person come out in the world today in this country, to be born in America, go to school, and come out and think that freedom needs to be restricted. That's pretty messed up. Or to go through schooling and come out and look at somebody like President Trump, and just because you don't like maybe his attitude or you don't like his style, you think he's a dictator, then you obviously have no clue what a dictator is and what the history of dictators are. Because if you did, you would see that no dictator in the history of this world has ever reduced the size of government, ever reduced the power that they hold. And what President Trump is actually trying to, with what's going on in Washington, with all of this now, these so-called whistleblowers and them trying to impeach President Trump, that is the government in Washington, the swamp. And it's mostly Democrats, and it's some of the establishment Republicans, but it's that Washington bubble that doesn't want to change. Those are the people that you might want to label dictators, because those are the people that don't want to let go of the power. And President Trump is actually the lone voice up there right now saying, we don't need that, we don't need that, we can cut that, we can cut this. That's called shrinking the government. That is the opposite of what a dictator would do. So if you're out there and you're a younger listener and you're listening to me and you're buying into socialism, start to use your common sense. I beg you. Part of my tagline on the On Point with Victor show is common sense and logic. That's what you're going to hear here. Well, if you're out there and you're buying into socialism, because look, folks, I will be the first to tell you, socialism sounds good, it tastes good, and it even feels good for about 5 minutes. But the road that you're going to end that, because the road to socialism, it does have a stop. It does have an end. And it's not just a little stop sign that's going to bring you to a stop. It's a big old wall that you're going to hit, and it's called the wall of misery. And now go ahead, Donald.
What about nowadays when people, in their 20s and their 30s, they talk about democratic socialism? Oh,
well, since you mention it, let's go ahead and transition here, because if I don't, this hour is going to be gone. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're here with Donald Schmidt, and you're running for the House District 103.
Mm-hmm. State House.
And so it's a state house here in Georgia. So those of you out there in Georgia, Donald, tell them what district this is, where this comprises.
So the 103rd district is in part of Gwinnett County and then part of Hall County. And it's from Decula, a little bit of Beaufort, a little bit of Lawrenceville. It goes through Flowery Branch, then up into the very southern part of Hall County.
Excellent. So real quick, go ahead and finish your comment on democratic socialism, because that's another area that that we should get touched.
I think what the only difference between socialism and democratic socialism, I think this is kind of funny that this is the first thing I want to be talking about, but socialism is basically dog crap, right? Mm-hmm. And then democratic socialism is dog crap, but there's sprinkles on top of it.
Yeah.
I think that's the only discernible difference between the two things.
Well, what's the saying, Donald? If you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. Yeah. Hey, you can put lipstick all over socialism and put as many Democrats in there as you want, but it's still socialism. So, well, Donald, tell us a little bit about, give me a quick background. I mean, I know you were raised in, is it Decula? Decula.
Yes, Decula.
Yes, I'm a city boy, folks.
I think a lot of people would be upset with you if you heard that.
I'm sure they would. I don't want to upset any listeners, but give me a break. I'm a city boy that's only known big cities. So okay. So you were raised there? So you were raised in Georgia?
Yeah,
so you were raised in the district of which you're running, which is great.
Which is a very
and rare
thing. Not only is it rare to, be raised in the district, go to school in that district, first job in the district, but the more you get into politics, you realize that you have someone on the ballot that was raised in the district, went to school there, spent their life there, knows the people, and then the opponent on the ballot is someone that just had his house drawn into the district, which is unbelievable to hear that that's how politics works.
Unfortunately, it is, and that's part of that establishment swamp that I speak about a lot on this show. So, Donald, give us a little background. I mean, who is Donald, and why are you running?
So, went to Georgia College and State University, had the chance to work for 2 governors, worked with my father in this small IT business
cool.
That we're still doing right now, and I noticed that there was an issue with, we have a majority in the Senate and the House for Republicans in Georgia. The issue is that we're not doing anything. So, I mean, we got the heartbeat bill passed. I believe a federal judge just struck that down. So what's going to end up happening is the session's going to start. The heartbeat bill is going to be struck down. They're going to go, well, we tried our best. And that's the one thing that they did the entire session. So I've noticed a massive issue where Georgia keeps getting worse when, we've dropped in education, we've dropped in healthcare, crime's getting worse. Businesses for certain areas of the private sector, businesses are doing better. And that's because Georgia and, Governor Kemp, Governor Nathan Deal did a phenomenal job with our tax system. But certain businesses are failing. We're picking winners and losers in business. We're paying all this money to Amazon. We don't care about small businesses as much. And I'm seeing all of these issues. So I had several people in the community say, why don't you run? I know we have a representative. I don't know his name. So I said, that's a fair point. So we did all the process that we needed to do.
Well, I don't. I'm not going to give out the name of your opponent, but do you have a primary challenger?
Yeah.
So you're.
Yes.
So is there? So you're running on the Republican ticket. So
Yes.
you'll be in the Republican primary. Is the 103rd held by a Republican now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. I got it. Okay. That's what I thought, but I don't want to give out names. Because we want people to know about Donald Schmidt.
Yeah.
And I think, first of all, I will commend you because if we need to have people who will step up and challenge the establishment. And I'm just going to say that. And you already mentioned the guy who's there now had his house drawn into the district, and versus you who was born and raised and really can probably relate to a lot of issues that have been going on, even though you seem like a pretty young guy.
Well, yeah, it's this unbelievable concept in politics called speaking to people.
There you go.
I mean, you learn an unbelievable amount of problems and issues that people are facing, and if you just take a moment to start talking to people, you start to learn a lot.
Well, that's one of the best things I think that I could tell you, and that I would wish from our representatives is to spend more time with the constituents.
Oh yeah.
And so I think you're going to get an opportunity to do that because as you campaign, so moving forward, let's just say right now with your campaign, how are you reaching your constituents?
So we have some volunteer events, some events where supporters come out. We do a lot of things on social media. We're actually doing very good on social media. Our campaigns page, it's Donald for Georgia on Facebook. It's got a larger following than most of the people running for the United States House of Representatives in the 7th District. Yeah. So we're doing very good on that side. And then, just going out and knocking on doors, speaking to people, going to events that we're invited to, things like that. We're doing a very, very good job. I remember just a funny thing to point out, I got a text from the person I'm running against.
Oh, yeah?
And he said, hey, I'd like to meet with you and see what the concerns of the voters are.
So he wants you to do his job for him.
Why? You didn't hire me as your political coordinator.
Wow.
Why aren't you just doing – you should know this. You're the one employed by the constituents in Georgia. Why aren't you – you should already know what the issues are. You shouldn't have to talk to the person that's running against you to figure out what the issues are. So, stuff like that happens. And
he darn sure shouldn't be asking you what's the concerns of the voters that he represents. I mean, he's the current guy.
Well, especially in text format, that's not the best way to do it.
Well, that's true, too. He couldn't pick up the phone and call you, huh? Well, so tell me, what are some of the main issues that you see? I mean, I don't, like I've said in the opening here, I wouldn't want you to come here, and I'm not going to do it, and I wouldn't want you to do it to badmouth the current guy there.
Of course.
The establishment is the establishment, whether he's really part of the swamp or not. I'm not that familiar with him. But I think it's great for you to step up and run because people need to understand the power of their vote. And when just because if you're a supporter of an R, but that R isn't doing what they need to do, they need to be challenged. It's one of two things should happen. It's either going to make him a better server of the people, or you're going to become the new representative. And
I would prefer the second.
I think we would prefer the second one too. But that's the process is good, and I think the process is something great that's unique to this country. So I want you to tell me what are some of your ideas? Why is 103 going to be better with Donald in the House of Georgia, or sitting on the House floor, rather than the other guy.
Yeah. Well, one of the things is, I'm not just trying to make the 103rd better. I'm trying to help out as many Georgians as I can. One of the funny things is if you try to contact most of the representatives or most of the state senators, you have to type in your address. And if it's not in their district, then you can't message them. That's remarkable.
Okay. Wow.
So, some of the things that a lot of people have been telling me are very important. Some of the problems that I had noticed preceding this was, first off, you have higher education, which is becoming a massive problem. So, tuition has increased. I think since 1980, it was 1,478%.
Well, we have football teams to pay for. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it's upsetting because I just went to the Georgia game, and I'm all sunburned, and that didn't turn out too good.
No, it didn't.
But so, we have higher education, which every single year the tuition increases. The endowment for the school increases an unbelievable amount. And then, a lot of times the tuition isn't based upon the value of the diploma from that school. It's not based on, what's the median income for someone that graduates, or how successful or how short of a time does it take to graduate. It's based on how big the school is. Georgia State keeps buying every single building in the city of Atlanta because it gives them a little bit more clout. Same thing with the University of Georgia, Georgia College, State, Southern, everywhere. So we have higher education. Another thing is healthcare. Healthcare is a major problem, and I think Georgia's ranked 41st in healthcare right now.
It's not good, and we're not that much better in education either.
We're 39th in education, and a brutal part of this is that, so the Democrats, we all know what the Democrats want. They want completely socialized medicine, right?
Right.
What do the Republicans do in the State House? They don't say, oh no, let's show you how the free market and the fair market can fix these issues that we're having. No, they just say, no, we're not doing that. We're going to stick with this terrible discombobulation of government and free market, where being so far in the middle actually makes it far more difficult. So instead of showing liberals that, hey, our ideas are way better and they work far better, so we're going to implement them, we have the votes. Instead of doing that, they say, no. We're just going to stick with what we currently have. Even though it's a system that's been ranked worse and worse every single year, we're going to stick with this.
Well, Donald, that is an awesome point, because that's kind of what I'm getting at, and what I want the people of Georgia and across the country, the power of your vote. It really, really does mean something, and it really, really means something when you're willing to throw out some of your so-called, and I'm using air quotes, some of your own. And what I mean by that is if I am in your district and I'm sitting there going, why is my representative not listening to me, or why are we're not implementing any new ideas? The Republican Party, the conservatives, used to be known as the Big Idea Group.
Yeah.
That was the Big Idea tent. And it was based on liberty and freedom, and the ideas would come out of liberty and freedom, and you implement them. And we're not doing that anymore. So these are some of the things that I want representatives to start doing, and we'll go to our next break here, Donald. But when we come back, I want you to maybe elaborate a little bit on what you can do as a representative, or what your tactics are going to be to try and get that ball moving of issues like healthcare and education. So, folks, hang tight. We will be right back with my guest, Donald Schmidt, who's running for the 103rd House District in Georgia.
Get your pen and paper ready. If there's a move in your near future, I'm here to tell you that the folks I used and now recommend is Around Town Movers. Timothy and the guys recently moved me, and I am and was totally satisfied with a sometimes not so fun experience moving. Call Timothy at 770-378-4708 and make it a good move and a good experience. Around Town Movers for that local or cross-country move. Timothy, Around Town Movers, in my opinion, are the best. That's Around Town Movers. Call them.
45 years of experience is behind the most trusted name in auto transportation. Passport Transport, the first and finest today. That's why Passport Transport is the preferred auto transport for major auto manufacturers, concours, museums, tours, and collectors. and should be your choice from across the state to across the country. When you have the need, go to PassportTransport.com and enjoy the peace of mind referenced experience will give you. Passport Transport.
Hi, this is Ron Camacho, host of the Business Hour on America's Web Radio. If you'd like to hear an eclectic mix of great programs, from relationships with Dr. Ann Schubert to homegrown veggies, and from classic cars to the Constitution, we've got programs for discerning listeners at www.americaswebradio.com.
Back, ladies and gentlemen. This is On Point with Victor. I am Victor Armendariz. I have with me in studio Donald Schmidt, who's running for Georgia House in 2020, and so he's running to take the 103rd seat, which is Northern Gwinnett here in Georgia. So those of you not in Georgia, bear with us because, believe it or not, politics start on the local level. And so we may be talking about Georgia, but all of this is going to have an effect. Eventually it'll affect the rest of the country. So, Donald, we were talking about how the Georgia Republicans have kind of gotten into where they just don't want to make a change. It's almost like they're scared. They're afraid to go with those big ideas.
Shake the boat.
And afraid to, shake, rock the boat. Because there is an issue passionate to my heart, which is the fair tax or a consumption tax. And Georgia, to me, is really, really, really behind the eight ball because we have not we haven't moved to a consumption tax. We still have an income tax here in Georgia. Tennessee does not. The Carolinas are looking to get rid of theirs. Mm-hmm. Florida does not have an income tax. And businesses are really, really attracted to states without an income tax. And the other thing a consumption tax does is it takes away the ability of politicians to pick winners and losers. And that's why I love the idea so much. So let's say you get elected, or when you get elected, is consumption tax something you could get behind for Georgia?
Now it's based more on the sales tax.
It's basically what we would do is replace the income tax with a sales tax. So same thing Florida does. Same thing Tennessee does.
We did a video a few days ago where I swore, right hand up and everything, that I would never raise taxes, which is really not I know it to some people might sound difficult. It's not hard.
But it shouldn't be hard.
It shouldn't be hard. You should be able to say, oh, this is obviously going to increase taxes. No, I'm not voting on that.
Right.
And if someone pressures you, which happens, say, no, I don't care. I'm just not going to vote on it.
I'm not going to do it.
Because I'm never going to raise people's taxes.
Right.
I've spoken to a lot of Democrats. And, Democrats aren't the same all over the country.
Right.
Democrats in Georgia are far different from Democrats up in California. So, I was talking to a few Democrats, and they said one thing is that I'll never vote for a politician that's ever raised my taxes.
Well, then they can never vote for another Democrat.
Well, that's one issue. That's one issue. That's one issue.
Right.
But that's something that really resonated with me. So
it sounds like those Democrats need to join the walk away movement. But
if we had the opportunity to remove the income tax, 100%, I could understand how that would benefit the economy, benefit families,
Well, I'll tell you this, Donald, and when you get elected and you want to learn more about it, let me know, because there's been more studies, more actual studies done on removing the income tax and putting in a consumption tax than any other bill passed by.
Now, what do you think the rate would be for that?
For here in Georgia on the state level, I would have to really look into that. On the national level, it would be 23%.
Okay.
But
now,
on
would
the
that
state
be
level,
would that be applicable to cars?
So it would be depending on how the state version would be. It wouldn't be applicable to. It would be only on new items.
Okay.
So used items would never be taxed twice, which is what we do today.
Yeah.
But you would also, the minute you enact a consumption tax, you get rid of the embedded taxation. Because what people don't understand a lot of times, because they don't see it. See, what government has been very good at is hiding taxes.
Of course. Yeah.
And everything you buy is taxed on every level of production. That goes away.
Yeah. And then the other terrible part, and I think because we keep talking about California, they've really noticed this, is that businesses, large businesses, obviously people that start small businesses understand how difficult the government can be, but massive businesses, they never pay the
No.
tax. They just say, "Oh, do you increase taxes? Okay, we'll just increase the cost of our product."
Absolutely, and that's the dirty little secret. There is there's no such thing as corporate taxes. Corporations do not pay taxes; they just pass them along to the end consumer. Which is another argument for a consumption tax. But so that's good. I want see that's a big idea that Georgia needs to run with, and I think there are Democrats that would probably come along. It just needs to be explained well. But another issue that might come up, maybe you've heard, is the Second Amendment. So Georgia. One reason I love, I'm sure it comes up. One reason I love Georgia is because I am a target shooter.
Okay.
I collect. I love my guns, and I've had a carry permit for as long as I can remember. So I do not want to see Georgia go in the direction of some of these other states. Georgia should be proud to be a carry state, should be proud to be a gun state. And what I don't want to see are these red flag laws. So where do you stand on this red flag laws?
Yeah, I remember we talked about the red flag laws a few weeks ago when we were on
another radio station.
And I noticed that one of the issues with that is that you don't really have due process. And that's one of the things that is excluded from that, where my understanding is if there's an assumption of any potential guilt, you can't own a gun.
Right.
There has to be a different way of doing that.
Yeah. The way the red flag law basically works is it completely does away with due process, because under a red flag law, you are guilty until you prove yourself innocent.
Yeah, and that
goes against all of jurisprudence of this country.
And the United States gets their system of laws from the English common law system, and one of the first things that they had come up with was the necessity to be innocent until proven guilty, and the red flag law is a contradiction of that.
Absolutely. So I feel good that you would stand against red flag laws. I just want to.
Yeah, I mean, in states, the United States, we have more guns right now than we ever have, and the murder rate and the homicide rate, gun violence, has decreased every single year. The only spike we've seen was when Bill Clinton made a new
assault weapons ban in '94.
So there's no contention that works when you say less guns means less crime.
Right.
Because criminals do not care about laws.
Exactly.
So even if you if you make guns illegal, people are going to sell guns. That's such a silly assumption to say if we make something illegal, people won't do it. We should make meth illegal. Right. And murder should be illegal
the last
as well.
I checked.
Yeah, there we go.
Murder's illegal. Most drug use is illegal. So, we see how well that works out. So, Donald, if you now that you've made the commitment, 2020 is around the corner. What are your biggest challenges?
So right now, what we have is a few remarkable organizations backing us right now, are in the process of endorsing us right now, and that's fantastic. We're doing very good in terms of raising money.
Speaking of raising money, do you want to give out your website real quick?
Oh, yeah.
How can people help you?
Thank you for that. It's www.donaldforgeorgia.com, and spelled out FOR, spell out GEORGIA. And if you want to, volunteer, if you want to support us through a donation, or if you want to get in touch with me, that is a fantastic way to reach out to me.
Excellent. And how accessible are you to voters' questions? Let's say there's a Democrat out there in the district who happens to be a gun owner and happens to support the Second Amendment. If they wanted to reach out to you and discuss that with you, or how could they do it?
Just sending an email. We have a ability to contact us very easily, and I respond very quickly. And that's one of the things that I've noticed, not to sound conceited at all, but something that might be different from me from most other politicians is even if you say you're a registered Democrat, I still believe that I have the capacity to potentially have you vote for me. Excellent. So, there's the amount of things that make us similar are far more than things that make us dissimilar. So if someone goes, I'm a Democrat, I believe in this, and that, but I believe in the Second Amendment, why would you do this? And you just start a conversation with people. I noticed that simply starting a dialogue is something that really influences someone's vote.
That's great, and I'm glad to hear you say that, because, what a concept. You are elected to represent all of 103, not the R's only.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's because I've interned at the Capitol with legislators. I've worked for 2 governors. I spent a lot of time there. And one of the things that's amazed me is how different it is from being on the outside like that and then actually going into politics. You realize most of these guys never have spoken to their constituents. You realize that a lot of these guys, a majority of constituents in our district, and we did a survey on this, 79% of the people in the 103rd do not know who represents them.
Wow. And see that, and that's indicative of the country now.
But you know what? That could be a benefit to the establishment. You go, I don't need everyone to know who it. If I'm already voted in and no one wants to run against me, I don't need people to know who I am.
Oh, Donald, you hit the nail on the head. It is huge benefit to the incumbents, and the incumbents. It's the one of the problems I've noticed, and it's just from me being active in politics, is there's so many voters out there who look and go, well, that guy over there is terrible, but my guy is great. And then you ask them, well, who's your guy? And they can't tell you.
No. I mean, I think voters are far more educated and understanding of politics than a lot of politicians give them the credit for. And I think voters, all it takes is a candidate that is willing to go out there and work. And, working both on the side of constituent services and then working on the side of legislation. So it just takes someone who's willing to work hard to be successful and be talented in terms of being a legislator.
Right. Well, Donald, we are down to our last about 60 seconds here on the show. Why don't you take us out and just give us, tell everybody again what you're running for, why you're running, or why they need to vote for you. But real quick.
My name is Donald Schmidt. I'm running for the 103rd District and for the Georgia State House of Representatives. And I'd love for you guys to vote for me. My website is www.donaldforgeorgia.com.
Perfect. All right. Well, folks, you heard it there. If you have any questions, go look us up. You can see this show again anytime on YouTube or download it. Any podcast agency or group, whatever you want to, you can listen to the show again. Look up Donald, look me up, and tune in next week. And stay tuned for Locked and Loaded with Roger B. You're listening to America's Web Radio.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you.